What's going on, Brothers and Cards family? I hope you are making the most of your quarantine experience in this crazy 2020. We've been working hard over here, Brothers and Cards. One of our homeschooling sessions is been teaching Truman how to throw a football with good form. That's going well. We've been busy with Brothers and Cards as well. A lot of you guys follow us on Instagram, and you've seen that we've listed 500 99-cent auctions on our eBay store. Those end Sunday. That was a lot of work, but it's always worth it. I love being able to get some people some cheap PC steals. So if you go to our eBay store, Brothers and Cards 1594, you can check out those. And our Pack Plus program. Listen, like as long as shipping isn't shut down, we're in business with our Pack Plus program. So the last day to order is this coming Sunday. But, hey, listen, you're not going to be able to go to the card shop. We can send the card shop right to your house. Go to brothersandcards.com to order, and we'll get you hooked up. We have football, basketball, and baseball. We'll take care of you. You know, it's funny. I usually love this time of year for a lot of reasons. Warm weather, March Madness, the NBA starts heating up for playoff races, opening day in baseball's coming up, spring break. One thing that hasn't been touched yet as far as postponing, I'm sure it'll look different than it has in years past, but the NFL draft is coming up, and I'm always excited about that. We're about a month away from the opening night and round one, where we're going to see some quarterbacks go. So we're excited. Every year I can't help myself. A lot of you guys know I played quarterback in college. I always am analyzing quarterbacks in college and the NFL. Can't help myself, always do it. And every year, this will be my third year of doing it, I put out my top 5 quarterbacks. Now, I'm a math teacher as well, and I love my spreadsheets. So I actually developed this like equation that deals with various stats regarding quarterbacks in college. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean, you know, how I feel with my eyeball test and all those different things, but there's stats that I think matter and that translate to the NFL, and that kind of give us a projection on whether they're going to be NFL ready or not. And there's a formula that goes into this. These are the stats that I take into account: strength of schedule, completion percentage, sacks per passing attempt, the touchdown interception ratio, and the ESPN passer rating. And in the formula, I also actually add some value with how many passing attempts they had throughout the year, but also I heavily weight strength of schedule, completion percentage, and the ESPN passer rating. But yeah, there's some formulas. It's a lot of math. I love it, but it kind of leads me in the direction of who I'm going to invest in. These formulas have led me to invest in, or believe in at least, Baker Mayfield, Mason Rudolph, and Sam Darnold. I think they were 1, 2, and 3, or maybe 1, 2, and 4 the year 2018 before that draft. It led me to not believe in Josh Rosen. Josh Rosen did not rank very high with these statistics, and you see how he's panned out. It also led me to not believe in Daniel Jones last year, which, you know, did I miss on that one? The jury's still out. And, you know, it's not perfect. It led me to believe in Will Grier last year. I didn't really invest a lot because I wasn't really strong on his opportunity with the Panthers, with the fact that they had Kyle Allen and Cam Newton already. But yeah, he was the guy that I thought was going to do well that didn't. So the formula is not a foolproof system, but it kind of gives me some of those underlying guys that are good to invest in because they're not crazy expensive, and we're going to talk about some of those today. So as I said, the NFL draft is going to happen. It's may, you know, be remote. It may look very different than years past, but it is going to happen. And we got to go down to the combine and talk to some quarterbacks last month, which was extremely cool. I hope it's always in Indy so I can always go down and just hang out and see how things go. So we got some special shout-outs to Brian Lewerk from Michigan State, from Kevin Davidson from Princeton. 2 guys actually sat down with us and opened a box of cards for our YouTube channel. You should check those videos out for sure. We got to meet Cole McDonald. Didn't work out to where we could do a video, but we got to meet and talk to him. Super cool, down-to-earth dude. We wish him all the best. And we also talked to Steven Montez. We didn't get to meet him in person, but we tried to connect. It didn't work out with the timing of everything for us to be able to meet, but he was a real cool dude that we were able to talk to prior to the combine, and we're going to talk about him again here in a minute. I didn't find this formula anywhere else. I just kind of use what I think is important from a quarterback's perspective and what I see in the league and what I think teams value. I have no idea if they care anything about these stats. Just kind of like what I use to tell myself, hey, this guy might be a good investment. I looked at 18 quarterbacks in this draft with those stats that we've mentioned. And out of all of these quarterbacks, there are some that you think, oh, yeah, he would definitely be a top 5 guy with those stats. And then there's some that you think would be up there that were not even close. And I'm not going to talk negatively about anybody, but you'd be shocked if you looked up the stats to see, hey, at the end of this video, you're thinking, where's this guy? Where's this guy? If you start looking up these stats, you realize, man, like, he's not as good as some of these, or he didn't have as good of a senior year as a lot of these guys. And so before we get started in my top 5, I want to have some honorable mentions. You heard me say Steven Montez's name earlier. He is one of my honorable mentions, and for good reason. If you look here, this is where he ranks against those other 18 quarterbacks in the draft class. Number 1 in strength of schedule. Number 10 in completion percentage. 8th when it comes to sacks per passing attempt. 16th between touchdown and interception ratio. And 15th with the ESPN passer rating. So here's the thing about Montez. And anytime this happens with quarterbacks, this is why I look at the strength of schedule. So if you think about it, out of all 18 of these quarterbacks, somebody who's playing the hardest schedule, you'd expect to see a drop-off in the other stats. So the fact that he's 10th in completion percentage doesn't bother me. The fact that he's 16th in touchdown and interception ratio, 15th on ESPN passer rating, you know, those aren't fantastic. But when I see that he is 8th in sacks per attempt, knowing that he played against the competition that he played against, that's impressive to me. You know, and honestly, outside of the Oregon game, he had a rough shot against Oregon. He threw 4 interceptions and 0 touchdowns. If you take that game out, a lot of these stats change drastically. And I know you can't take that game out. That was an opportunity that, you know, he had and kind of squandered. But you got to remember, when you have a team like Colorado playing against teams like Utah and Oregon, every single skill set is outmatched. The offensive line is outmatched. The receivers are outmatched. It's an opportunity to overcome for sure, but you know the expectation isn't really that he goes out and dominates in those games. And if he had, sure, his stock would have risen a lot. But you know, it still says a lot that he was able to do what he's done against the schedule that he's seen. And it's not just this year. This guy has he's started 38 Division I football games with this kind of schedule. You know, he's made most of it. You know, it's not the SEC. It's not the Big Ten. I get that. But he played a lot of games. He has so much experience at the Division I level. He struggled a little bit in the Senior Bowl, but he finished the regular season very strong. Truly hope Steven Montez gets an opportunity somewhere. He's got a big enough body to be able to handle the NFL. And I think that's something that scouts are going to take seriously. And, you know, he's got promise. He's got promise. I would love to see him get a chance somewhere. Another honorable mention that I have is Tyler Huntley from Utah. Tyler Huntley may be the biggest combine snub we've seen in a while. There are only 2 reasons that I can think of as to why he didn't get a combine invite. One of them is that his height is only 6'1". Can't control that. The one being that he took a lot of sacks. Outside of those 2 reasons, he played quarterback for a successful Utah team. And he's got a lot of upside. When we look at his stats compared to the other 17 quarterbacks, he ranked 11th in strength of schedule, 2nd in completion percentage. Only Joe Burrow completed a higher percentage of his passes than Tyler Huntley. He was dead last in sacks per attempt, but he was 6th on the touchdown to interception ratio, and he was 4th on the ESPN passer rating. Tyler Huntley had a good senior year. He didn't stop there. He did well in the East-West Shrine game. And being 6th on the touchdown interception ratio, that's all well and good, but consider this. This guy threw 854 Division I passes and only threw 20 interceptions. This guy protects the football. Another honorable mention that I have that almost cracked my top 5 just because I like him so much is Jake Fromm from Georgia. In 2019, last year, when I was doing all this evaluation for the draft class, I actually included like a lot more quarterbacks than just the draft class, and that included Jake Fromm and Tua. And both of them ranked higher in this formula than every single quarterback that was drafted in the 2019 draft class. They had incredible sophomore seasons. They both, Tua only played a half in his freshman year, but Jake Fromm, as a true freshman, played the entire season at a very high level. You got to understand, Jake Fromm has led his team to 3 SEC championships. When we look how he stacked up to the whole quarterback class here, he was 5th in strength of schedule, that tough SEC schedule that lasts all year long, 14th in completion percentage, 4th in sacks per attempt, 5th in touchdown per interception ratio, and 11th in the ESPN passer rating. But consider this, that 14th in completion percentage, okay, he's completed 60.8% of his passes. But last year, he completed 67.3% of his passes, which would put him 6th in this year's group. Touchdown interception ratio has been consistent throughout. This guy protects the football. But look, he's 4th in sacks per attempt. Let me tell you this. It's rare and it's hard to always protect the football and to not take sacks. A lot of quarterbacks choose to protect the football so much so that they do take a lot of sacks. Some quarterbacks would rather take a shot than take a sack, and that turns into a lot of turnovers. But the fact that Jake Fromm has been able to consistently keep from getting sacked and protect the football, that says a lot about his NFL potential. I really think Jake Fromm is going to get drafted somewhere. I hope it's somewhere with a potential opportunity, and I think he's going to impress. I think when he gets in there, he's going to be a guy that says, I've played in bigger games than this, and I'm ready. All right, it's time to start talking about my top 5. We're going to start with 5th here, Jalen Hurts. If you follow me on Instagram, you know I've always loved Jalen Hurts. I love how he handled adversity in Alabama. I love how he played early on in Alabama before Tua got there. I love how he handled adversity this last season. There were games that he struggled in the first half, came back strong in the second half. There were games that were close that he overcame and led his team. I love watching Jalen Hurts because you can watch him the whole game no matter what happens. He stays calm. He stays cool. He stays a leader the entire time. I love that. And that's not necessarily something that translates to the NFL right away, but it makes you want to root for the guy, and I want to root for Jalen Hurts. Here are his stats compared to the other guys. He's number 4th on strength of schedule, 5th in completion percentage, 16th in sacks per attempt, 7th in touchdown to interception, and 3rd in ESPN passer rating. Honestly, a stat that I think does translate to the NFL that you don't see here is that Jalen Hurts is a winner. I know he doesn't have a national championship from the last couple years, but he is a winner. Honestly, he reminds me of Deshaun Watson. He was a guy coming out of Clemson that did just win a national championship. And everybody talked about how good of a winner he was. But was that going to translate in the NFL? Well, it absolutely has. And Jalen Hurts reminds me of him very much. People knock on his passing. I think he showed great improvement as a passer this year. Struggled a little bit in the Senior Bowl, but listen, throughout the season, he ranked 5th in completion percentage. He ranked 7th in touchdowns to interceptions. And it's not like he did it against a joke schedule. This is 4th strength of schedule in this quarterback class. He is a winner. He is a competitor. He is a great athlete. And he has improved so much in the last year. You can only imagine what an NFL coach is going to do to him. I think Jalen Hurts is going to be solid in the NFL. I hope he gets an opportunity early before people forget about him. I'm a huge believer in Jalen Hurts. He may actually be the most NFL-ready quarterback in this year's draft class when you consider how many snaps he had against high-quality opponents, how many passes he's thrown in the last few years, the adversity that he's faced, the winner that he is, and just the overall leader. He's going to make people believe in him as well. 4th on my list is a guy that I don't see ranking in many other people's top 5, but I'm a believer, and that's Anthony Gordon from Washington State. A lot of my opinion has to do with the success this year of Gardner Minshew. But when you look at Washington State and specifically Mike Leach's history, Anthony Gordon would be the 6th Mike Leach quarterback to be drafted in the NFL and the 13th of his quarterbacks to experience the NFL. When we look how he compares to other quarterbacks in this draft class, he's 12th in strength of schedule, 3rd in completion percentage, 1st in sacks per passing attempt, 9th in touchdown to interception ratio, and 5th in the ESPN passer rating. Listen, Anthony Gordon is a good athlete who has a lot of experience in this Mike Leach offense. This is actually his third year. He just finished his third year there. Gardner Minshew beat him out for the starting job last year, but he's been in this system, this NFL-type system, for 3 years. He's been under Coach Mike Leach, who many talk about jumping to the NFL someday. His system, the Washington State offense right now, translates well to the NFL for quarterbacks. Actually, I'm still kicking myself because when I made this formula last year and I ran this, Gardner Minshew was actually third on my list. But I thought, Washington State, I can't put him in my top 5. People will be thinking I'm crazy. So I didn't. But with that in mind, I kind of kept him in the back of my mind as an investment. When he showed promise his first couple times, we snatched up a lot of stuff. We actually have a lot of his cards at PSA right now. Who knows when we're going to get those back. But I think Gardner Minshew was somebody that, based on my formula, showed great potential. And I wish I would have talked about him more because I would have looked a lot smarter. But I'm not going to miss out with Anthony Gordon, as he's very, very similar in a lot of these stats, and those stats translated well. Gardner Minshew this year completed more than 60% of his passes, and he had a 21-6 touchdown to interception ratio, and he was 9th in the league, 9th out of 22 quarterbacks that played 14 games or more in terms of sacks. Sacks taken. So I'm impressed by that. It's these stats that translated well. I'm always trying to keep track and make sure that it stays consistent. And it did with Gardner Minshew. Anthony Gordon's coming from the same system. He's a very similar player. I think Anthony Gordon could be somebody's Gardner Minshew this next year. Third on my list, and honestly it was hard to put him third because I like him so much, is Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert is a great quarterback. I liked him last year, and he had an opportunity to go to the draft last year, I believe. I could be wrong on that. But coming into this year, I was like, all right, I want Justin Herbert to make a believer out of me. And I watched that first game of the year with Auburn and Oregon, and he 100% convinced me. He completed 75% of his passes against an SEC defense, not easy to do. And then he finished the year in the Rose Bowl, completing 70% of his passes against Wisconsin, who also had a great defense. Then we progressed to the Senior Bowl, where he completed 75% of his passes and won the Senior Bowl MVP. Last year's Senior Bowl MVP was Daniel Jones, who showed some success this year in the NFL. But, Justin Herbert has a lot more to offer than just a Senior Bowl. When we look at his stats compared to the other quarterbacks in this class, he was 9th in strength of schedule, 6th in completion percentage, 11th in sacks per attempt, 4th in touchdown to interception ratio, and 6th in the ESPN passer rating. Listen, I really think that all those stats are going to translate well for him in the NFL. When you watch him play, he looks like an NFL passer. His pocket presence, everything about him tells you this guy's going to do well in the NFL. I love watching Justin Herbert play. He's going to get drafted in round 1, and whoever he goes to, the opportunity that he gets, the people that are there to support him, he could be a guy that makes a run for Rookie of the Year. He could be the best quarterback in this class or have the best career, just depending on where he goes and what opportunities he gets. But I'm a huge fan of Justin Herbert. Talked to some quarterbacks when we were down at the Combine, and, they said that one of the coolest people they got to meet was Justin Herbert. And that just speaks a lot of him. Every time you hear anybody talk about him, it's very, very, he's a great leader. He's a great person. He's a great student. I think Justin Herbert has great potential. He's been playing with a lot of speed at Oregon, so he's going to be used to a lot of the speed that he sees in the NFL. I think Justin Herbert has great potential. I can't wait to see how that plays out. All right, let's talk about number 2. In my number 2 slot, I have Tua. I can never say it right. Tagovailoa. I know I just didn't say it right. But I love Tua. And I always have loved Tua ever since his freshman year. Came in with that great opportunity. Came in and won a national championship in his first half of Division I football. Incredible story. His sophomore season did not disappoint. When I ran all these stats last year, he actually ranked higher than every single quarterback in the 2019 draft class. He always seems like he's ready for big moments, and that's going to be a great asset to have in the NFL. It's funny, one of the things that holds him back when people are talking about him is the fact that he's left-handed. If you look it up, there's not very many left-handed quarterbacks. In fact, it was either last year or the year before, there wasn't a single left-handed quarterback on any NFL roster or practice squad, which is wild to me. But I think it's something that people believe in him so much that they're willing to make those adjustments in their offense to let him do his thing the way he did at Alabama. And, when we look at this year's stats and we compare it to the other quarterbacks, he's 13th in strength of schedule, and that just kind of made me laugh because his every day at practice, before he got hurt, was against, probably better competition than most people see throughout the year. So 13th strength of schedule, whatever. You can take that with a grain of salt because really every day he's seeing like top 5 strength of schedule, talent, and practice. He was 4th in completion percentage. He was 5th in sacks per attempt. He does not get sacked very often. In fact, last year, I think he'd only been sacked like 3 times in the regular season. And then he got sacked like a couple times in the SEC championship or maybe the college football playoffs, I don't remember. But no, he made a great run getting sacked very, very few times. And obviously Alabama is elite. They have a lot of players that are their offensive line is always going to be great. But, that's still impressive. He took very, very few sacks. He was 1st this year in touchdowns to interception ratio and 1st in ESPN passer rating. Listen, this guy's a player, and he's a competitor. He's a great, great passer. I think all of those things are going to translate great to the NFL. His injury looks like it's going to be able to be overcame. It looks like he's going to have a full recovery eventually. But, like I said, the ESPN number 1 overall passer rating kind of says it all for me. He's going to be great in the NFL in terms of pocket presence, on the move, all of those things. I think Tua is going to set a great precedence for quarterbacks out of this draft class. And I personally hope he gets drafted 3rd, whether it's to the Lions or somebody trades up to get him. We have an XRC autograph from Select that whoever is drafted 3rd, we're going to get their autograph. So I would love for that to be Tua. But, I think he's going to have a successful NFL career. I don't think he'd be a bad guy to go somewhere where there's a veteran sitting in front of him, somewhere like the Colts. But where he could learn from your I think that's always beneficial to sit back and learn from somebody and then be able to come in as a starter in your 2nd year, knowing the system, knowing how things work, and getting your feet wet by, learning from a veteran. But, whatever happens to Tua, I think he's going to be successful. And I'm excited to see, where he goes. I've always loved Tua, and I think that, this is going to be a fun year. All right, let's talk about number 1. Was there any doubt in anybody's mind that Joe Burrow was going to be the top quarterback coming into this class? It's crazy because he only played 1 year as a starter. But wow, what a year. When we look at his stats compared to the other quarterbacks of this class, 2nd in strength of schedule. That's what blew my mind the most this year, is he put up impossible stats against phenomenal teams consistently. Very impressed with Joe Burrow, maybe more so than I've ever been with any quarterback ever. So impressed with Joe Burrow. He was number 1 in completion percentage against that ridiculously tough schedule. We talked about how impressive it was that Steven Montez was 10th in completion percentage, having the toughest schedule. But look at Joe Burrow. He had the 2nd toughest schedule, and he was 1st in completion percentage. That is just incredible to me. It says a lot about him. It says a lot about his poise. Honestly, he has maybe the most accurate and beautiful deep ball out of any quarterback I've seen in a long time. A big part of that is because he has made the jump from quarterbacks that are throwing to receivers and quarterbacks that are throwing to beat defensive backs. You have to know the game so well and be so rehearsed on different coverages and different talents from the DBs versus your receivers. You could watch his game and see when the receivers look back, see when he throws, see what the DB's doing. And so many deep balls that he threw down the sideline were based on where the defensive back was, not where his guy was. And that is hard to do. It's a very impressive skill set to have that's going to translate extremely well to the NFL. Joe Burrow is a great student of the game. Everybody that's talked about him says this guy just knows football. He's dedicated to learning more about football. He's going to be a great quarterback. He will be ready whenever his opportunity to start comes, whether that's week 1 or later in the season, we don't know. But Joe Burrow is going to be ready for the NFL when his time comes. I think the Bengals are actually a great fit for him. I hope they keep Andy Dalton to kind of help him along. They have a really good offensive line. They have really good weapons in their receiving core and Joe Mixon at running back. I don't think the Bengals are a bad fit. The thing that's hard about playing for the Bengals is that division is really good. I think the Browns are going to rebound this year. I think Baker's going to get right. The Steelers are always going to be tough, and the Ravens were phenomenal last year. So I think it's a tough division. It's going to be a tough division to go out and have a great winning record with your rookie season. But I hope they take him. I hope they take Joe Burrow, and I hope he has success. So there's my top 5 quarterbacks. Now some of you might be thinking, okay, I can't wait to invest in some of these guys. Me personally, when I think about investing in this group of quarterbacks, I don't think I'm going to be investing in Joe Burrow or Tua, probably Justin Herbert, and maybe even Jalen Hurts. They might be too expensive. I don't really jump on the guys and say, I don't care what it costs, I'm going to invest in these guys because it's going to go up. It's not really how I do things. I try to think about the guys that are not going to be expensive at the beginning, that I can invest in and I believe in are going to do well when they get their opportunity. Mason Rudolph fit that bill perfectly. I invested a lot in Mason Rudolph because when his stuff came out, it was all pretty cheap. I was buying Contenders rookie autographs for like $20-$30, and then they blew up once he got his chance. Steelers are a great team. A lot of my investment depends on what team these guys go to. What's their fan base like? What's their the city's expendable income in terms of, are there a lot of people are there a lot of fans of that team that can invest? I think those are factors that I look into. I'm going to collect the guys that I've been able to talk to. Cole McDonald, I can't wait to get some of his cards. Brian LeWerk, you've already got one of his autographs on the way. Kevin Davidson, I'm going to collect those guys. Steven Montez might be an actual investment that I make depending on where he goes. If he's drafted to a quality team that's going to, have a good selling market or give him a good opportunity. Anthony Gordon, I'll probably invest in depending on where he goes. And Jake Fromm, probably definitely invest in him pretty much no matter what. I really believe in Jake Fromm. We'll see about him. And if Jalen Hurts is affordable and gets a good opportunity, I'll definitely have to, partake in some investing there. We'll see how it goes. But no, investing in sports cards is becoming a big thing. Things are crazy right now with all the quarantines and the coronavirus. So the market's going to kind of do some weird things. But I think when things get back to normal, sports cards are going to continue to be a good opportunity for investment. You can invest as cheap as you want. You can invest as much as you want. You can buy as many or as little cards as you want. It's kind of got every opportunity for you. So there's my 5 quarterbacks. There's my investing advice for this group. Thank you guys so much for watching. God bless.